Alright, we're going to continue with The Boy Called Bat. We are almost finished. You guys did chapter 23 yesterday. I'll read 24 and 25 today, and that leaves 26 tomorrow for you. 24, a reply. Bat, said Mr. Grayson, as the students filed into the classroom, you got an email from Dr. Jerry DeGrew. He wrote back. Bat said, his heart beating faster. There were only a few days left until Thor was supposed to go to the rescue center, and he had almost given up hope. What did he say? You can read it at recess, Mr. Grayson said. It's a nice email. I want to read it now. All the other kids were at their desks, but Bat was still standing in the aisle. He felt his hands pull up tight against his sides, and they did that when he was excited. At recess, Bat, said Mr. Grayson. Bat hated waiting. Hated waiting. It was stupid to wait for something if there was no good reason that it couldn't happen now. Who cared if the class started a few minutes late if it meant that he could read his email? A real-life skunk expert he had written to him. That was certainly more important than anything Mr. Grayson had planned right now. He had a real-life skunk expert written to Mr. Grayson. Almost certainly not. Mr. Grayson, I think you should let me read my email now, Bat said. Bat, Mr. Grayson answered, sometimes we have to wait. It's good practice to delay gratification. Bat didn't really know what Mr. Grayson meant but he knew it meant that Mr. Grayson wasn't going to let him read the email right now. He wanted to insist, and he would insist if he thought it would change Mr. Grayson's mind. But Mr. Grayson looked serious, so Bat reluctantly went to his seat. Too bad, said Israel, putting down the book he had been reading. Don't make fun of me, Bat yelled. Whoa, dude, Israel said. I wasn't making fun of you. Bat, said Mr. Grayson, coming over to his desk. What on earth is the matter? Israel was making fun of me, Bat said. I was not, said Israel. I just said, it's too bad. Bat can't read his email right now. You don't really think it's too bad, Bat said. He kept his eyes on the surface of his desk, running his gaze over the wood grain. You don't know what I think, Bat, said Israel. You don't know everything, Bat said Mr. Grayson, putting his hands on his Bat's shoulder. The weight of his hand felt good. It helped Bat to feel like he was sitting in his seat, like he wasn't going to fly away. Try to give Israel the benefit of the doubt, okay? If he says he was being sincere, believe him. Bat nodded, but he didn't look up. Israel went back to his book. For what it's worth, Bat, said Mr. Grayson in a quieter voice, I think Israel was being kind. I think he liked to be your friend. Then Mr. Grayson took his hand off Bat's shoulder and returned to the front of the room. Now Bat wasn't thinking about the email from Dr. Jerry DeGrew. He was also thinking about whether Israel wanted to be his friend. He thought about how Israel had asked him if he wanted to play Foursquare and how he had said out hello outside of the sugar shack. Then he thought about the other kids in class looking at him right now. And he thought about Thor's eyes, and he thought about the windy day outside. It was too much to think about all at once, and his skin began to feel prickly and too tight. But he couldn't take off his skin, so instead he reached into his backpack for his earmuffs and slipped them on. The classroom noise around him faded, and Bat's skin calmed down. Bat looked at the clock above the classroom door. It was 8:55. Recess was at 10:15. There was exactly 1 hour and 20 minutes away. He couldn't wait that long. He didn't like it, but he could do it. Time was a funny thing. Sometimes an hour and 20 minutes didn't feel very long at all, like when Bat was watching YouTube videos about animals, and sometimes like when Dad was watching baseball on TV. An hour and 20 minutes felt like 20 years, but that day, the hour and 20 minutes between 8:55 and 2:15 felt like 20 baseball games. At least, Mr. Grayson said, okay, gang, go play. The kids shoved back their chairs and headed for the door. Bat pulled his earmuffs and went to Mr. Grayson's desk. It's recess, he said. Yeah, Bat, it sure is, said Mr. Grayson. He opened his laptop. Can I read the email too? Israel asked. He hadn't gone outside with the other kids. Why? Asked Bat. Because I'm curious. You've been talking about Dr. Jerry DeGrew non-stop. That wasn't true, was it? Maybe it was true. Okay, said Bat. But no making fun. I wasn't making fun before, Israel said, and I won't now. Here you go, gentlemen, Mr. Grayson said. He clicked at the top message in his inbox. The subject line read, question about baby skunk. Then he stood up so that Bat could have his chair. When you're done reading your email, just close the laptop and come join us outside, he said. Then he headed out to the playground. Bat sat down. He could feel Israel standing behind him, reading over his shoulder. The email read, Dear Bat, I'm very interested in skunks, as you know. I can tell that you feel very attached to Kit. And I don't blame you. Baby skunks are adorable. But the question of whether you should keep him as a pet is a complicated one. Even if your mom feels reasonably sure that he is disease-free, all pets require huge commitment, time, energy, and usually money. Skunks are no different. In fact, keeping a skunk as a pet is much more challenging than keeping a dog or a cat. Skunks are not pets by nature. They are wild animals, and from many years of experience, I can tell you that most people don't know what they are getting into. It is very easy to fall in love with a baby skunk, but it's very difficult to truly be a good caretaker to a skunk. Most people would be better off with a dog. Still, this skunk kit has come into your life for at least the next few weeks, and your mother must work to be the best caretakers you can be. Should you keep the kit? Should you give him to the rescue people? I don't know the answer because I don't know you and I don't know your kit. But it sounds like for now the kit is right where it needs to be, and I trust that you will take good care of it. Sincerely, Jerry DeGrew, PhD. DeGrew Incident for the Betterment of Skunks and Skunk Reputations. That's too bad, said Israel. What's too bad? Asked Bat. The skunk guy doesn't think you should keep the kid. That's not what he said, Bat said. Well, he didn't say that he'd tell your mom to keep him. He didn't say that skunks make good pets. That's true, said Bat. He didn't say we shouldn't keep Thor either. He said that a good caretaker makes a good pet, so all I have to do is become the best caretaker in the world and convince my mom to let me keep raising him. I can do that. Bat closed Mr. Grayson's laptop, absolutely determined to become the very best caretaker that the skunk had ever had. Can I come over sometime? Israel asked. Why? Said Bat. I don't know, said Israel, to hang out and maybe meet Thor. It's okay with me, Bat answered. I'll have to ask my mom. Chapter 25. House Guests. There were just a few days left before Thor was supposed to leave for the animal rescue. Bat didn't have any time to lose, and all afternoon he practiced how he was going to tell Mom about Dr. Jerry DeGrew and how important it was that Thor stay with them as long as possible. But that night at dinner, he found himself nervously avoiding the topic. What if he couldn't change Mom's mind? Bat couldn't imagine anything worse than that. So instead of telling her about Dr. Jerry DeGrew, Bat said Israel wants to come over to the house. Who's Israel? Asked Janie, dipping her chicken nugget into barbecue sauce. He's a kid in my class, Bat asked. Bat, honey, that's great, said Mom. Is he your friend? Janie asked. Bat considered the question. Was Israel his friend? Israel was nice to him. He was interested in some of the same things that interested Bat. He didn't seem to think Bat was weird, and he wanted to visit. I don't know, Bat said. Maybe he is. That's kind of a big deal, said Janie. You've never had a friend over before. Yes, I have, Bat said. Isra comes over all the time. He's my friend, not yours, Janie said. He can be your friend and Bat, said Mom. I thought you said Isra is annoying, Janie said. He is annoying, said Bat, but so are you, and you're still my friend. No one is more annoying than you, said Janie, but I guess you're my friend too. Neither of you is annoying, said Mom. And Bat, I think it's great that you want to have a friend over. Well, said Bat, dipping his chicken nugget into ketchup. It was Israel's idea, not mine. He wants to meet Thor. At that moment, Thor was just where he should be, tucked into the pouch warm against Bat's chest, and remembering Thor made Bat nervous all over again. I think it's a great idea, no matter whose it was, said Mom. I'll call Israel's parents to set up something, maybe Saturday, whenever, Bat said. And then he said, Mom, there's something else too. What is it? Mom had a chicken chunk in her hand, already dipped in sauce. But she set it down. I wrote to the world skunk expert, Bat said. The words came fast and loud because they were important. I wrote and asked him about keeping Thor as a pet, because I don't want to send him to the rescue people. I want to raise him here at our house. I love Thor, and I think maybe he loves me too. And I'm not ready to give him away. Oh, Bat, said Mom, how on earth did you find a world skunk expert? And then Bat told her about reading his animal encyclopedia about Dr. Jerry DeGrew and Mr. Grayson helping him write the email, and about waiting for a response and finally getting an email back about how Israel had wanted to read it too, and I can be a good skunk caretaker, Mom, he said last, and then he waited to hear what she would say. But it was Janie who spoke. Wow, Bat, she said. That's pretty cool that you found an expert and wrote to him. That takes guts. I think you should let him keep raising his skunk, Mom. He's pretty serious. Bat was so surprised that he felt his mouth drop open. Janie was helping him? Bat, Mom said, I've been watching you with the kid, and you are so responsible and careful with him. But, honey, raising Thor until he's old enough to release to a big is a big commitment. He'd have to stay with us all through the rest of the school year. and through summer as well. That sounded wonderful to Bat. The longer, the better, he said. You say that now, Mom said, but what if you get tired of feeding him and cleaning up after him? And what about when he gets bigger and he is more awake, and he's awake more of the time? Mom said Bat, he did his very best to make a voice sound serious as he felt. I will never get tired of Thor. That would be like getting tired of me and Janie. Mom laughed and reached over to squeeze Bat's hand, then shook her head, which Bat knew was a sign for no, and felt his eyes staining with unspilled tears. But she said, beautiful Bat, you have become an excellent skunk caretaker. You have been dedicated, and even when you found a way to contact a skunk expert. I have to admit, I am impressed. I'll tell you what. I am thinking that maybe we won't call the Animal Rescue Center next week. We can try having you take care of Thor with my help until he's old enough to release. How does that sound? How did it sound? It sounded not as good as the promise that he could keep Thor forever, but still impossibly good. Bat felt like he was vibrating on the inside. He was so happy. He wanted to jump on and whoop with joy, but Thor, curled up and asleep in the sling, and a good skunk caretaker would never startle his kit like that. So instead, he said, thank you, Mom, and thank you, Janie. Thank you both. And that is the end of chapter 25. You'll read chapter 26 tomorrow.